Welcome to Inspiration Contagion, where we spread inspiration one story at a time. I am your host, Holly Jean Jackson. Each interview spotlights transformational business leaders, their stories, challenges, and advice for how you too can lead yourself and others through inspiration. Learn how you too can achieve peak performance, build more revenue, and lead the legacy you were meant to lead. Welcome back to Inspiration Contagion. This is episode 78, and this week's guest that I have with me today is Rochel Marie Lawson. Known as the Queen of Feeling Fabulous, Rochel Marie Lawson is a successful multiple business owner, RN, AHP, a dream lifestyle transformational facilitator, a multiple #1 best-selling author on Amazon, a 2-time international best-selling author, international speaker, and creator of the Brave, Bold, and Unstoppable Women's Summits. Owner of Blissful Living for You, created to bring wellness, wisdom, and wealth into the lives of individuals ready to unlock, have, and live the seeking life of their dreams. She inspires, she empowers, she unleashes. With that very lofty, amazing introduction, and I love the part about feeling fabulous, welcome, Rochel.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Holly. It's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. It's great to have you here. We're going to dive right in, and I want to hear what makes you an inspirational leader, or what's your secret sauce?
So what I'm going to say, what makes me an inspirational leader is because I am a trendsetter. I have been a trendsetter ever since I was a little girl growing up as the only granddaughter on both sides of my family. So I just commanded that, so to speak, and had the boys in tow. But I'm also a trendsetter where I've started the first woman-owned, minority-owned telecommunications installation company in probably the United States, but I'm going to say the Western region of the United States. And I started that company in 1989 in a male-dominated industry. I was the only female business owner there in that arena. So I've always been that type of girl that, breaks the mold, or rather breaks it and then creates my own mold.
I love that. Trendsetter, trailblazer, setting new molds, breaking the norms. We certainly need more of that today. And if you're watching this on YouTube or just listening, Rochel does not look old enough to have started a business in 1989. Just to be clear, just super clear.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate it. In my mind, I'm still 29, but I've been that multiple times. So we'll leave it there.
Yeah. Well, if you're resetting the mold, I can see why. Why not do that with age as well and mindset? Perfect. Amazing. Well, what does inspiration mean to you specifically?
Inspiration is something that I've been told that I'm very inspiring to people just because I'm that girl that does not kind of follow the suit with the way things are. I don't want to say should be or supposed to be for us women, but in my age group, there was a certain way that you were supposed to do things and a certain way that you were supposed to act. And I never did that. I mean, I just walked to my own beat and I really didn't care. And I think when women see me and they see that I am I create my own mold, so to speak, it's inspiring, and it gives other women I guess, permission to not necessarily toe the line, but create their own line and do it unapologetically. I'm been told I'm brave, I'm bold, I am unstoppable. But with regards to that, I don't try to be inspiring to women or men. I just be myself. And I think me standing in my own light and owning that without being apologetic for it is very inspiring to men and women, particularly women today, because we got a lot of stuff going on with women, and we need a lot of inspiration so that women are no longer afraid to be who they are and do what they want to do, and not be apologetic for that. So,
Yeah, I love that. Well, I mean, if we keep talking about molds, and I'm just gonna say what's on my mind, I keep thinking about Jello. You're like breaking the mold, creating a new mold. I'm like, Jello is what's on my mind at this moment, just kind of putting that out there. But I love that you're not just creating a new mold, but you're also allowing yourself to continuously upgrade the mold. So maybe the Jello is a castle, and then maybe it's even like larger than that. It's multiple castles. Who knows? Just putting that
That's
out there to be
funny because
playful.
when I was a kid, I made a lot of Jello and I used a lot of Jello molds, and I would do some creative stuff like, "Ooh, what if I put this triangle mold with this, you know, star mold and try to stack them?" So yeah, yeah, I'm that type of girl.
Well, there you go. I have a feeling that being bold and unstoppable requires a lot of creativity. And as you can see and hear from what we're sharing with Jello molds, it started at a young age. So that is certainly very inspiring and memorable. Our listeners are like, where is this going? Amazing. So, I do want to ask you some things around peak performance. Obviously, when we listed off all the incredible things you've done, it took a lot of grit to get there. So, how do you define peak performance and how did you arrive at this definition?
So peak performance to me is really being in the essence of, I want to say, being on your dime, so to speak, and just ebbing and flowing in and on your dime. And what I mean by that is taking it to the highest level as possible, which is for you, not by the standards that others have created or try to fit you into, but being in the essence of your own ultimately beautiful performance, whatever that may be for you. Um, it it's a very I want to say, when I think about peak performance, I think it takes me back to when I was a track and field athlete and I started running at the age of 10, and I was put into a race running the 400 meters at the age of 10, and was not I never felt that I was able to perform ultimately to my peak. However, there was a gentleman that told me some things about, and I didn't even know what it was at the time, about doing your best. And when you do your best, you are at your ultimate peak performance, whatever that is for whatever you're doing. And it's not in related to someone else's standards or someone else's peak performance. It's really what you set for yourself. So it's setting goals that are within and beyond a little bit of your boundaries that allows you to stretch to get to that ultimate place that you want to be. And so peak performance to me, I guess, is just being where I need to be, how I need to do it, and doing the best that I can that allows me to be successful and stand in a very great light without, again, being unapologetic for whatever it is I'm doing. And I always strive to be the best. I'm a little type A perfectionist, recovering gal. But it is really just me performing at my highest level, my best potential, and not comparing myself to others. It's really just a comparison within myself for myself so that myself can be great.
Yeah, that's a really beautiful reminder. And I like that that coach pulled you aside and explained what doing your best means for you and how you can't compare yourself to others. And this is something I see time and time again with my consulting clients, with people I network with friends and family. And especially since we live in a world where social media is so prevalent, there's this compare and despair. And anytime we compare our goals, our lifestyle, the things that we have, the relationships that we have to others, we're always going to be left wanting and lacking and feeling desperate or fearful or like we're not enough. But when we actually keep that container, which I'm going to go back to the jello mold, and we figure out what that perfect jello mold is for each of us. So for, let's say, another person, it's a jet plane, right? Another person, it's a race car. Somebody else, it's a village. Somebody else, it's a castle. We all have such different containers and such different skill sets that when we stay in our own lane and we stay in our own molds and we're very clear on that, we can be set up for success to develop our own molds and grow and stretch those. And like you said, also be very unapologetic about once you do achieve your peak performance and success, don't let anybody ever take that away from you. And I just have to really like harp on that because you've mentioned being unapologetic so many times and how, especially women in particular, really struggle with being bold and brave and ultimately unapologetic about what they're achieving. And I think that's people listening right now need to hear that, especially women. Do not be apologetic about your success. Do not be apologetic about your mold, your pathway, your skill set. Only you can do exactly what you're doing.
Exactly. And do not be apologetic for being the best of whatever it is you're doing in your category, your life, your career, your endeavors. Because when you start apologizing, then you diminish your light. And when you diminish your light, you diminish the essence of standing in your peak performance and really owning it. So I know I say unapologetic a lot, but I think in this day and age, women need to understand we don't need to apologize for being who we are. And if we're great at something, we need to own that light. So many of us dim that light when we're great, and we shouldn't do that. Just allow that beautiful starlight to shine on you and let the world see that you are a beacon, and you're not comparing yourself to others, nor should others compare themselves to you, because we all have a very unique and special essence that allows us to stand in our own peak performance abilities. And so never be apologetic, but I
Yeah.
can't say that enough. I can't say it enough.
Yeah. Yeah, and one thing I'll add to that is the people that are trying to bring you down, that are trying to make you feel like you need to apologize for whatever nonsense reason, those folks are simply acting as a mirror, or you're acting as a mirror for them, really. And they're seeing something in you that they're envious of, or you're making them uncomfortable because you're standing in your essence. You're choosing to go after peak performance. You're choosing to break the mold of society, or you're choosing values that don't align to them. These are not your people. They're not your tribe. And I hate to say that because often as you climb the ladder to peak performance on your own path and you're defining that ladder, not having somebody else build it for you, you end up going through quite a few breakups, whether it's family members, close friends. I hate to admit it, but it's just part of that growth pattern. You either grow with people or you grow apart from people. So, again, if you're hearing that and you've noticed that you're feeling like you need to apologize around people in your inner circle, I would step back and reevaluate if they should be in your inner circle.
I agree 100%. 100%. There was a time, back in the day, so to speak, where when you would go to a corporate meeting, you were supposed to dress a certain way, and everyone had that navy blue suit or that black suit. And here I would come in a bright red suit or an all white suit, and I would stand out. And I didn't do that intentionally. I did it because I like the colors, but also those are the colors that resonate with what's going on inside of me. And so people would be like, well, why are you breaking the trend of traditional corporate wear for women? And I say, I'm not breaking the trend. I'm creating a trend. I'm a trendsetter. And if I can pave that path and make the path smooth, and someone else coming behind me will have a little bit easier time going down that path. And it's just being true to yourself. So often in the corporate world, as we climb the corporate ladder, we start off true to ourselves, and then we get to a certain point and that self that we were once true to no longer exists because we're trying to please everyone else and we're trying to fit in everyone's mold, so to speak. And it's time for us ladies not to do that. And so never apologize, stand in your greatness, be in your own peak performance and define that for yourself. Don't let others define it for you, because when you start letting others define it for you, then you get into this spiral of not feeling that you're good enough or that you're doing good enough or you're being good enough. And as you also said, as you evolve, you will lose friends. You will not be close to family members that you were once close to, because you have a light in you that is too great of a capacity for them to no longer hold. But you should never dim your light and you should always, always stand in your greatness, no matter what that is.
Love it. Ninja pro tips here. Stand in your light. Stop letting people steal your power and do not
Yes.
apologize. So we could go on corporate America for days, but that's a totally different podcast. What are some of the challenges or obstacles that you faced along your personal journey to achieving peak performance?
Well, again, being the only girl in my that generation of my family, here's one. I'm going to share this quick little story. When I was 10, I had some friends. I always played with boys, right? So I had some friends, went to go try out for baseball with them, and got there and was told that, oh, sweetie, softball tryouts are in 2 weeks. Come back and try out for softball. And I'm like, I didn't come out to try out for softball. I came out to try out for baseball. And long story short, there was some hemming and hawing, and one of the moms said, "Oh, just let her try out. What is it going to hurt?" Well, I ended up not only surprising all the coaches, but at the end of tryouts, having them fight over me as to whose team I was going to be in. Now, this was in the 70s where little girls didn't play Major League Baseball with little boys. But I knew then that I had something within me, tenacity. A lot of times, and a mouth, and a lot of times I got in trouble for it. But I never, ever, ever allowed what other people thought I should be or should do stop me from doing what I wanted to do and what I felt I should do. And so I think the most important thing with that whole lesson is, if there's something you want to do, if there's somewhere you want to be, if there's something that you being a trendsetter and you're breaking the norm, it really is okay, just as long as you know that you're going to have some pushback from people that may not, you may make them uncomfortable. When you make people uncomfortable, then you know you're on to something, right? And I mean in a good way. I don't mean like, creepy, stuff, but just when you make people uncomfortable with you standing in your greatness, and just owning what you are and your essence and what you have to give to the world, then you know you're onto something. If you think of people that have done that, the Oprah Winfrey's, the Michelle Obamas, the Ariana Huffingtons, these women, even the lady that started Spanx, and I don't want to say her name incorrectly, but Miss Blakely, even her, they were doing something that they got pushback from, and no one thought they could do it, but they knew that they had something within them, and they went out and did it. And now we have these fabulous women doing many, many good things, not only for people in our country, but around the world. And so I think that that's really important for us to understand, when it comes to just owning who you are and being comfortable with that.
Absolutely. And I think it's a really important reminder that if you are a trendsetter, you're breaking norms, you're trying to start something new, you're building a movement, a nonprofit, a business, you're going to be facing a lot of challenges, a lot of obstacles. That's just par for the course, it's part of the experience. But I also find that, just like you said, the sweet spot of life and success and optimizing and stretching who you are is kind of finding that sweet spot of equal excitement and kind of like terror or fear. I don't know how to exactly describe it, where you're like terrified and anxious, but also really excited, because a lot of times our anxiety and fear is really just excitement misplaced, right? And
Yeah.
so, like you were saying, if you're making people uncomfortable, you're in the right spot. If you're yourself feeling uncomfortable, you're also in the right spot, unless your intuition, that inner small voice, is saying this is not for you. That's very different. And I'm not saying if you're afraid of jumping out of a plane and like you have risk factors, don't go do that. But I am saying, like, if you're excited and you believe in the business, the nonprofit, the movement, the thing that you're building, never let anybody steer that faith or that belief away. And just expect and know that if you're receiving challenges and obstacles along the way, that's normal. And in fact, I notice that I learn and grow the most when I'm going through tons of challenges and obstacles, because you learn the most when you're in those moments. So thank you so much for sharing those stories. It sounds to me like, as a trendsetter, you're kind of on a specific path where you're going to be facing ongoing challenges and obstacles.
Yeah, I think it's just life. I mean, when I think about when I started my telecommunications installation company, I was the only woman in a male dominated industry. And I did have the guys tell me, who do I think I am coming to play in the world? I stood true to my I stood true to what I set out to do and my belief in that I could do this and I can make this work. And it was always really not so much about me, but about if they could just be comfortable with me, then I opened up the gateway and the avenues for other women to do the same thing. The funny thing is, though, it seems like everything that I've done for the majority of my life, I've always been that only woman. So I've sat on board of directors of Fortune 500 companies where I was the only woman, you know. And it could be that I just ebb and flow with the guys and they just think I'm like one of the good old girl guys, or it's just meant to be a way for other women to stand in their greatness and know that they can. But it is very interesting, and that all started because as an electrical engineer, I could not get a job in Silicon Valley in the late '80s. There was no sex discrimination, and I was told they would want to hire. I would love to hire you, but because you're going to be working around men that are your father's age, we can't. And so these are the things that I think just had this underlying fire within me that said, you know what, no matter what, I'm going to do what I want to do. And I'm going to give it my best. And there will be challenges and there will be, people that don't accept me, but I don't care because as long as I'm doing what I'm here to do, then I'm fulfilling my divine purpose.
Yeah, one last thing before we move on to the next question. Um, as you were saying that, I love it when people tell me that I can't do something. That is like the best way to light a fire under me. I'm like, let me show you how wrong you are. I've had people say, you're not going to be able to start a podcast. You can't do a TED talk. You can't start a business. All these things. I mean, it started when I was young with like simple things like piano lessons.
Right.
And I'm like, cool. Let's talk about that in 30 days or 90 days or a year from now, and we'll see who's wrong. All right, so let's kind of shift to culture and employee experience. I'd love to hear, because you've had multiple companies, you've been hyper successful. How did you create a culture and an employee experience that optimizes peak performance for your employees?
Um, so this funny thing, here I am, a woman-owned business, but the majority of my employees, I'm gonna say there's 3 women and all the rest are guys. And at one point, I was the only woman, and it was all guys. What I did and what I do is I allow my employees space to create a place where they feel they can be great in whatever their task is. I'm not a micromanager. I will guide and direct and correct you, but I allow you the freedom to do what it is that fits your niche, so to speak, that fits your personality. We're all not, you can have 17 nurses work in the emergency department starting IVs, and I guarantee you that each of those 17 will do it just a little bit different, but they get it done and they do it how it's to the best of their abilities. And so I think for me, I have a really good sense of allowing people that space. Now I am type A in control with myself, but I allow my employees and people that I work with, whether it's just a group or a board of directors or, my employees, I allow them to work in their capacity and what works for them. And then if things don't work out, or I see that there may be trouble down the way, then, we course correct and point things out that can help facilitate them to seeing how they can do things better. But for the most part, I let them go with the flow and let them do what they need to do that works for them. And everyone has a unique ability and unique skills to do the same task. We just all might do it differently. I might, put on my pants with the right leg on first and the left leg. Somebody else might put it on with the left leg, but it doesn't make it right or wrong. It's just, we just do it differently. But at the end of the day, we hopefully have our pants on correctly. So it's just,
Yeah.
I just think I let people be what they need to be, how they need to be, and how they need to do it so that they can feel the best and the most successful with whatever it is they're doing.
Yeah, well, I commend you because I know quite a few type A business owners that really truly struggle with letting go of the reins that they have a death grip on of the baby of their business and allowing their employees to learn, create flow, but also fail, which that's part of the process. They have to be able to do that. Otherwise, innovation and growth never happens. So, kudos to you on creating that container for them and that safe space so that they can actually thrive and be
Oh,
themselves.
girl, it took a
That's
while though. It took a while. I can say this now that I've been 29 for a long time, but it took a while for me to get there because in the beginning I was really a type A and very perfectionist, and it just evolved over time that everyone's not like you, Rochelle Marie. Everyone's not like you, and in order for people to feel successful, you have to let their light shine and let them do it to how their light is telling them to do it. And once I got that, then it just became so nice. But I'm still, I guess if they're hearing this or watching this, they're like, she's still a little controlling. Don't let her fool you. She's still a little controlling, but in the best of my, I have it. I come from
yeah.
my heart,
Yeah.
because I want people to be successful.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Well, thank you for adding that because I know a lot of folks listening are probably struggling with that. And they're like, whoa, I don't know that I could do that. So it is an evolution, it's a process. It's not something that ever stops. We're constantly checking our blind spots. And we know that like type A controlling stuff always kind of comes back up when we're not our best. We're not 100%. We're sick. We're under pressure or stress. Then yeah, we're human.
You
We,
know,
although it,
I'm sorry. The other thing is you hire people to do something, right?
yes.
Let them do what you hire them to do. And until they show that they can't do it or they need help or guidance, just don't step in. Everybody has a different way to get to Z. Just because they're not getting there to Z your way doesn't mean that it's the wrong way. It might even be a better way. But when you hire people to do something, allow them to do it.
Yeah. That's a really good point, and so since I do a lot of consulting work, it's really funny, like, granted, I get to choose who I work with, I'm at a place of business where I have that opportunity and that freedom, which is great, and maybe you're not there yet, that's fine, it's a work in progress, but I will say it's really entertaining to me, even with all the pre-screening we can do when you have consulting clients that you're kind of having to handhold them along the way because they don't necessarily fully trust what you're doing in your superpower abilities. But I think that's also just the type A loving your business thing that's difficult for many of us to let go of. And I totally get that. So thanks for sharing that as well, because I'm sure people resonate with that. Now, I wanted to move on to your customer experience, and I wanted to ask you, what have you done to optimize your customer experience? Are there like a few key takeaways that people need to hear about?
My customer experience is twofold because I have two different types of business. So again, I'll go back to the telecom business. Um, I love customer feedback. Our goal is to always surpass the customer's expectation and to go beyond the call of duty to get whatever it is we're working on done for them. Okay. So, because of that, because I value my customers, not their dollars, I think that's really important for people to understand. Yes, I value the dollars, but that's not my number one value of the priority for me. It's valuing the customer to make sure that they're satisfied. If we're on a project, I want it to be seamlessly smooth, and I want my employees to be open to receive information or input from the customers. So it's a give and take relationship. In good marriages, and I don't know any that have lasted for 50 years like my grandparents nowadays, but there's an ebb and flow. There are times that are things going to be difficult. There are things you're going to want to hear about your employees or your company that you don't necessarily want to hear, and vice versa. But allowing that dialogue to happen is very important because it helps you to understand your customers' needs beyond what is the things we see. There's the things we see and they tell us, and then there's that stuff behind. It allows us to see that stuff behind because it's the stuff that's behind that really needs the nurturing and the loving care that you put into giving your service and product. And when you can do that, and when you can do it time and time and time again, put the customer's needs before your own needs and your own monetary needs, you will you will have customers that will love you to pieces. With the telecom company, many of our customers have been our customers for day one, and we're going on that 34th year. And with my other business, Blissful Living for You, the same thing. I have customers that they don't want to be released, and it's like, no, you transformed. I mean, like, what else can we do? Well, I just want to hang on. Well, you can still be in contact with me, but again, it's allowing them to share the good, the bad, and the ugly of whatever they feel and not take it personal, but see it as an opportunity to do things better so that your customer is satisfied and they can give you that 100% rating. You know what? We had a little bit of a rough patch, but oh my gosh, they did fabulous, and they have 100% rating, and we're going to give them this next project or this next whatever it is. And so I think it's easy to say to put the customer needs first, but it goes beyond that. It's establishing that relationship where you can go to them and they can come to you and say whatever, and it's not taken offensively. It's taken as constructive criticism that allows both of you to be better and have that great solid relationship. And that, I guess, is what happens in marriages of people that have been married
Yeah.
for 50 years, but I don't know.
Yeah. No, I like the marriage metaphor. Customer experience has really never been more important than today, especially in service-based businesses and companies. You really need to have strong foundations with your customers. You need to put them first. You need to take their feedback seriously. And as Rochelle was alluding to, read between the lines. If there are trends that you're seeing and things that you know about a particular client that's been with you for, like you said, 34 years, and you're like, God, I'm seeing this interesting blip on the radar. What's going on there? Use your intuition and fix that immediately, because we all know how hard it is to get leads and sales conversions. Why would you ever want to lose your existing customer base? Why would you want to lose an opportunity from your fan base that refers you business? That's insane.
Right.
And this is
Yeah.
where tons of people leave money on the table, is with their customer experience. If you're listening today, that's probably the biggest golden ticket of nugget in terms of the financial revenue piece of it. If you are not making as much money as you want or noticing profit leaks, look at your customer experience. I guarantee you're leaving money on the table and you can improve it, because people do not obsess about this enough. And if we look at it from the premise and the metaphor of a marriage, boy, I bet a lot of business owners have a lot left wanting in terms of their customer experience because they're not taking it that seriously. But we're going to shift because we're just having such a great conversation. We're running low on time. We're going to pivot to revenue questions, which a lot of people are like, show me the money, right? All right. So, what are some examples of when you've left money or revenue on the table, and what did you do to fix it?
So I have my partner in crime, so to speak. When we started the telecom company, he didn't particularly want to do something that he wasn't familiar with. And my motto is, if you never try it, then how do you know you can't succeed at it? I'm always willing to try something new. And so there was a time where we were up for this big project for a major financial institution, and they're rolling out, remodeling their whole 800 and whatever branches they had. And he was a little bit afraid of that. He's like, well, what if we just take a piece of it? And I'm like, no, we're not gonna leave that money on the table. I mean, it's like they're clamoring to give us this. Why would we turn and say, no, we can only handle 200? And so it became a really interesting conversation. But from that, um, here's what happened. We did the job. And from that, I said, hey, if you guys ever need something in this capacity, now this was, right at the advent of the internet coming. So it was the installation of the cabling was going to a higher, faster speed. Like, we do fiber. If you ever need, some fiber laid, I know it's a new thing, but if you ever need fiber laid, we can help you. And the customer was like, oh my gosh, you know what? We were just in a meeting the other day and they were talking about this faster medium that we needed to use to be able to, send wires across the world. How about if we give you this little project as a teaser. And if you do well, we'll see where, well, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to leave any money. Now we had never done that little project, but I was like, I'm not going to, if you don't try it, you don't know. We tried it. It worked phenomenally. And the story is on that, this customer is so happy that they gave us more work. But the thing about it was, never be afraid to try something new, and never be afraid to ask for more from your customer in terms of project or interfacing with the clients or whatever. Never be afraid, because if you don't ask, I
Hmm.
guarantee somebody else will. If you don't ask, they're probably looking, but because you don't ask, they don't think you're interested or even think you know what to do, or have any capacity. So I would say always ask, and ask and ask and ask. And if you get told no, don't stop asking, because that no doesn't mean no forever. It just means no for right now. Now you might not want to you might be a door installer, and you only you only install doors, but they may need you to put the knob on the door. Well, if you don't do that, try it. You never know. You never know. That might be a new niche for you. So never be afraid to ask your customer for more, especially if they're really happy for you with you. That's a great time to ask, hey, what other projects do you have coming down the line? What other, people in your company might need some additional training and diversity, equity, inclusion, or whatever it is. But always do an additional ask, especially after you've done a great job, because that's when they're fresh, and you will get that that additional ask will be most likely given to you as a yes. He had something to say.
Yeah, your dog got excited about talking about money. So, a couple things I want to highlight there. Number one, it's so important to have your product suite of services or physical products that can answer and address lots of problems for your customers. So, knowing your customer experience in and out and having solutions for them. So, whether, like you said, it's the doorknob to like the door of the whole building installation from small to big, no matter how small it is, you should always offer that and ask for that, because if you don't, somebody else will, and then you're leaving money on the table. So really dial in your product suite. But then also, Rochelle made a really important point: never stop asking. Even when they say no, the only time I stop asking is one, if they're not a fit for me, or two, they do not like me at all. Like they're like, I don't like you, I don't trust you. Cool, that's a no. Otherwise, it's like, I'm not ready for you yet, right? So you kind of have to have that bold, brave, confident, unstoppable attitude with sales, because as we know, 80 or 90% of sales happen after you ask multiple times. I want to say it's like 8 to 10 times you have to ask. And that's once they know you. This isn't even like starting before then. It takes 20 times or more before they even get on a call with you. So ask and
Can I
ask
share one
again.
more thing?
Yeah.
Even if you don't like them, still ask. Still ask. Even if you don't like them, still ask, because you never know. That person may like you, you don't like them, but still ask. Always ask. Don't be afraid to ask.
There you go. Always ask. All right. What is the next shiny object that you're trying to turn into revenue today?
Well, the next shiny object is, I have this amazing summit that brings women together: strong, brave, bold, courageous, determined, resilient women together to support each other. Sometimes as women, we are these little pegs on a block, and we're all on this block like checkers on a checkerboard. We're all standing in our greatness, and we sometimes are afraid to come together because we think we're the only ones like we are. But when you find your community, and when you find that there are other women out there doing exactly what you want to do, and they want to support you as well as you want to support them, when we come together in unity, we're so much stronger, and we can go so much further in making the world a better place. So my summits, called the Brave, Bold, and Unstoppable Women Summits, is what that is all about: is bringing women together, entrepreneurial women, business women, um, women that want to be business owners, but is bringing us together to support each other so that we can stand in our greatness. Some of the most tremendous successes I've had with my business is when I found and got with a community of women that supported me no matter where I was, whether I was that $1 million company and, in a group with $500 million company women, or, I was that $500 million, not, but I was that top woman and bringing other women together. It allows us to have a synergistic connection that is unbreakable. And in this day and age, particularly in the United States, we need so much more of that. We're not in competition with each other. There's no one that can do what you do on this planet like you do it. And I gave the example of, the ER nurses doing IVs. We all have a skill set, but no one can do what you do. So there is no competition. There's just only us supporting each other in our greatness that allows our light to shine even brighter. And that's what the Brave, Bold, and Unstoppable Women Summits are all about.
Yeah, and for those of you who listen, I typically offer ideas for monetizing it, but I know Rochelle already has some monetization things in up her sleeve in terms of sponsorship, speaking opportunities, attending opportunities, all these things. So by all means, you should reach out to Rochelle, find her. I have links in the show notes to get involved in that, and I'm sure she won't say no to any involvement you have interest in expressing. All right, we're going to wrap it up with our 2 rapid fire questions. This has been an amazing interview. Thank you again. What's the best one piece of advice you would share with others today?
Others. I was gonna say, if it's women, you can be in your bra and your panties and wear and put on your 5-inch stilettos and walk down the hallway like you're Naomi Campbell, running, doing the runway and doing your thing, and be unapologetic for it. Okay, but since guys might be listening, um, you can get in, go drive a race car at Malibu. Oh, they don't have Malibu Grand Prix, but you can go Andretti's or whatever. Go drive a race car and feel the exhilaration, and just let your hair blow in the wind and feel powerful, even if you're only doing 30 miles an hour or 130 miles an hour. But just feel, just let the essence flow.
Be unapologetically you. I love that. All
Yes.
right, what's the legacy that you wish to leave behind?
The legacy I wish to leave behind is making sure that women manage their wealth. Never be dependent upon your husband or your significant other for managing your wealth. And being able to leave wealth for your future generations. So often we hear about women getting to retirement age and they don't have that wealth set up because they were dependent upon a man or someone else to do that for them. So mind your dollars. Even if you put $10 aside a week or a month or whatever, eventually that money grows and you're able to create some wealth for yourself. So leaving wealth as a legacy for your future generations is extremely, extremely important to me and should be for you.
Amazing. If you're listening to this, make sure you are settled in your wealth. You have a plan, you have people you can reach out to. Please do that. You are worth it. I have all of the links for how you can reach out to Rochelle, her website, her social media, her email, her YouTube, all of the things. And I'm certain that if you send her an email as well, you can ask her more about her conferences or summits, all the things that you might want to get involved in. Thank you once again so much, Rochelle. This is great.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Holly. I appreciate you.
Thank you. And to our listeners, we'll see you on the next episode of Inspiration Contagion. Thank you for joining the show today. I hope you were inspired. More importantly, I hope you take action. If the show inspired you, I ask that you subscribe and share it with your network. Let's spread inspiration together today.